your pleas for a miracle resound unheard. A Thorwallian, wearing a war coat and bearing a heavy axe and a bugle, enters the taproom. Hearken, hearken, hearken! The Hetman Tronde Torbenson seeks heroes who are able and willing to go on a dangerous quest that may well cost them their lives, but may also give them eternal glory and good gold. Skills of the sword and magic are needed to complete this quest. If you believe that you have both the skills and the courage, go to the Hetman in Thorwall by the shortest route. The tavern is well frequented. The bar is occupied by a lot of drunkards. Not many stools are left. The innkeeper is busy serving his patrons. You sit down. The innkeeper looks at you inquiringly.
You're a motley lot. What can I get you?
The innkeeper grins from ear to ear and thumps an empty wooden mug on the counter.
Did you hear that? These travelers here are buying around.
Instantly, thirsty men are shouting expensive orders. The barmaid gives you a big smile and rushes behind the counter to fill tankards and mugs. Turning back to you, the innkeeper says,
"That will be..." "Thank you. I appreciate generous custom like yours."
The innkeeper pockets the money, raises his tankard, and calls out to the taproom.
3 cheers for our benefactors!
The other patrons join in, and both maidens of easy virtue and rogues sidle up to you. You take a look around. Nothing much has changed. The few patrons have probably left the tavern, but others have arrived to take their place. In the corner, a leaf elf has unpacked a hand harp and begins to sing, but sadly, nobody is listening. Do you want to? You order a hearty meal. The dish of the house the innkeeper recommended is oozing grease. Likes it. Just as you are beginning to wonder if some leaf elf prankster has cast visibly Vanibar on you and made you invisible, the innkeeper deigns to saunter over and asks eloquently,
Beer?
The innkeeper brings pitchers.
We talked already. You can see that I don't have time.
In the blink of an eye, he's back at the other end of the counter, serving a farmer porridge with bits of meat. It looks suspiciously like a rat. It takes a while, but you finish your beer. Suddenly, the taproom goes so quiet you could hear a pin drop, but only for a moment. Then drinkers start to call for the innkeeper.
By Travia, did you hear that? These travelers are buying around.
The innkeeper rushes up, beaming with delight, and together with a barmaid very pleasing to Raja, begins to fill one tankard after the other.
That will be silver thalers,
he announces happily.
The outrage! They're insulting Travia and our innkeeper!
Shouting erupts, and the patrons close in on you with angry faces. The heavy drinkers among them feel especially hurt, now that you have robbed them of their alcohol. Do you want to?
Grab those ne'er-do-wells,
a thirsty dwarf shouts.
Beat those scroungers!
You hear from another corner. Some patrons block your path, but you are quick enough to escape with a few thumps and punches. Island's Otterskin rises high above the city, home not only to Hetman Tronda's residence, but also to a garrison and the famed map library. Outside the heavy gates in the embankment are two giants with fearsome axes, obviously warriors of the Hetguard.
Where are you going?
Because of the call to arms, I see. Let's see if there even was a call to arms. More imports of Fountainlandian potatoes. An application for a vote in Hjaldi. Major weddings. Plan X. Heroes wanted. You don't look like farmers, merchants, jarls, or specialists for Plan X. So you must be heroes. Well, come along then. One of the guards lead you into the large storage, where Hetman Tronda is brooding over old maps by the light of several candles. After you have politely introduced yourself, we do not need these niceties. So you think you are able to survive the wilderness for months on end, to find something where you don't even know what it is? Indeed, that's what I call courage. Right to business. Thorwall is in grave peril. Orcs are gathering in the upper Bodir Valley, and it looks like they have united behind one leader now. If the auguries are accurate, then they will number in the thousands this time. We must prevent the orcs from reaching Vilmholm, else war will be inevitable. I have studied the ancient sagas and realized that the best thing we can do is impress the orcs, and preferably their chieftain, so much that they abandon their plans. Magic would actually be best suited to the task, but you know what it's like. Spellcasters are either incompetent or on the wrong side, so we need a different method. There was a weapon lost in Orkland dozens of years ago. Grimring, the sword of the famous Hetman Higgelik, whose expedition never returned. His grave must be somewhere in Orkland, and his sword is probably there as well. They say the orcs were in terror of the weapon then, and their shamans, or whatever they're called, supposedly have a long memory. If we could get our hands on this weapon, and a brave warrior could teach the orcs a lesson with it, we would have won half the battle. They'll either scatter, or else their morale will be weakened to the point that we easily force them to retreat. Well, now that you know what this is about, do you still think you'll have the courage to go on this quest? As soon as possible. Pack your things, get equipped for the wild, and set forth. It would be good if you searched these parts first. Some of the expedition members' descendants are still alive. As far as I know, a direct descendant of Higgelik, one Isleif Olgardsson, lives in Stanrock. Why don't you try your luck there? May Swafnir's blessing and the 12 be with you.